There's one graph that shows you how quickly you can achieve financial freedom. It's the graph of savings rate and time to financial freedom. It's obvious that the higher your savings rate, the faster you will achieve financial freedom. What's not so obvious is how clear it is. If your savings rate is somewhere in the 0 to 10% range, it's obvious that you will never achieve financial freedom. Savings rate here refers to the percentage of annual income that you can save after tax. If you can ramp up your savings rate to 20%, it will still take you 50 years. So many people think that 20% is a good rate of savings, but the truth is, it's not. As you go higher on this rate of savings, when you reach 50% savings rate, suddenly you need only 20 years. That's 30 years of your life saved. If you were to ramp up your savings rate to 75%, real magic begins to happen. At that rate, you can retire in under 10 years. And if you were, by some magic, able to ramp up your savings rate to 90%, you can retire in under 5 years. Of course, if you can save 100% of your income, then you can retire today. Now, the interesting thing is that this is not random theory. This is proven by math. How do I know that this is true? Let me take you through real data from my life. This is a graph showing how my wealth has grown over the years. As you can see, around 2017 was the inflection point where my wealth began to take off. Now let me add the graph of my savings rate to this graph of wealth. And here's how it looks. Between 2010 and 2012, my savings rate was somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. I thought it was good enough. But obviously, my wealth did not rise much. Now in 2014, my savings rate came down to 0 because I quit my job and tried to found a company. Although I did, but things did not take off. And so in 2016, I went back to a full-time job. But a thing I did differently this time was that I ramped up my savings rate to 60 to 70% range. In fact, by 2019, I was actually saving almost 70 to 75% of my income. And as you can see, my wealth rose dramatically. Yes, I was making more money, but my wealth wouldn't have risen if I was spending as much. Now, this is even more clear with another graph, which shows my spend to wealth ratio. So, what ratio of my wealth I was spending every year. If you go back to 2008, I was spending 3 to 4 times of my wealth. Because I was earning at that point, so I was spending more than the wealth that I had. My spend to wealth ratio came down steadily as I earned more, but it kind of plateaued at one point. Now this is the inflection point where I upped my savings rate to 70%. And as you can see, my wealth took off and my spend to wealth ratio came crashing down. So at somewhere around 2022, my spend to wealth ratio was about 0.03 or 0.04, that's 3 to 4%. So I was spending only 3 to 4% of the wealth that I had, which is kind of the point at which you have achieved financial freedom. And so in late 2023, I did quit my full-time job because I could afford to. And the only thing that made it possible was this graph between my savings rate and time to financial freedom. The two lessons from this graph are that absolute numbers don't matter. You noticed something interesting. I never showed you any absolute numbers in these graphs because those don't matter. It's only the relative numbers and the percentages that matter. Your spend to wealth ratio and your savings rate. And so this is the only graph that matters if you want to achieve financial freedom. If you want to know about a new age way to retire that will change your life, watch this video.